So today I thought we'd do something a little bit different than our traditional Retroarch tutorials, and instead we are going to be taking a look at the PS2 version of Retroarch. Now, Retroarch for PS2 only has a couple of cores available. We have NES, Genesis, Game Boy Advance / Game Boy Color, and 2048, so not a whole lot available, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and explore this. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is actually grab the PS2 version of Retroarch. I haven't done this yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the download section. I'm going to go to the nightly builds, and then we're looking for PlayStation and PS2. So if you go all the way down to the bottom, that has the latest entry here. Then if you'd rather download cores individually, you can also do that here. But the zip files have all 5 of those, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. Alright, now that that's downloaded, going to go ahead and get it extracted. So there's 5 different ELF files, which are the executable programs for PS2, so there's 5 of them here. So I'm going to move those over to a USB thumb drive to use on my PS2. Now, you do need a hacked PS2 for this. You do need your thumb drive to be FAT32 formatted for it to show up in the PS2. So I've already gone ahead and done that. And then I made a PS2 Retroarch folder here. I threw in some games for each of the supported systems. And in case I need them, I have the Sega Cd BIOS and Gba BIOS. But I'm just going to go ahead and copy these cores over to the thumb drive. Alright, now that I have those set, I'm going to go ahead and put this USB flash drive in the PS2 and boot it up. Alright, so here we are on the PS2 side of things. I am in Open Ps2 Loader. I have a custom theme applied, and I really like this one, but that's besides the point. Anyway, you're going to need to launch ULaunch, WLaunch, or whatever file browser / ELF launcher you happen to have installed on your homebrewed PS2. So for me, I have WLaunch. And now that we've got that loaded up, I'm going to press circle to go into my file browser. And your USB drive will be listed under mass. So we're going to go in there by pressing circle. There is my PS2 Retroarch folder. I'm going to select that with cross. Now I'm going to press R1. We're going to cut that. And paste. There we go. Alright, so this is going to take a minute, so we will resume when it finishes. Well, it turns out I wasn't paying anywhere near enough attention to see that I only have 36 megabytes of free space left in my OPL apps folders, so I'm going to go ahead and copy the Retroarch ELF files over to here, and then I'll move my games somewhere else. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all the Retroarch ELF files. Going to cut them. Move them over to the hard drive, OPL folder, apps, PS2 Retroarch, and paste. There we go, much better. So now all of my Retroarch apps are in this folder here. And we're going to move the games over to the common folder. Alright, we'll let this finish up real quick. Alright, now that those have finished transferring, I'm just going to go ahead and transfer over this system folder real quick. That should be the last thing to do here. So select it, cut, and I'm going to put this in the apps Retroarch folder. And there we go. Let's go ahead and start with 2048 since that's the top of our list here. Alright, so Retroarch on PS2 uses the RGUI menu. It's really quite simple looking, basic, but it looks still looks good, especially on a PS2 output. So we have PS2 specific inputs, video and audio drivers. All the typical stuff you'd expect here. Gonna disable bilinear filtering. There we go. Really sharpens up the picture a bit, which I prefer. Integer scale, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. Aspect ratio is 4:3. I need to set that on my capture card real quick. There we go. Much better. And there we go. So it's pretty much Retroarch just on PS2. How about that? Who'd have thought? Alright, so let's go ahead and start up 2048. This isn't a core that utilizes any additional programs. It is just its own dedicated game that runs within Retroarch. Alright, so press start, and there we go. So the whole point of this game is to try to combine the numbers. So it doesn't look like there is a... No, there we go. There is a quick menu button. That's good. I'm glad to see that we do have quick menu functionality. I didn't check that before starting. Alright, anyway, let's go ahead and get into some actual, like, emulation here. So, let's start off with NES. We're going to use Quick NES. Alright, so here we are, Quick NES. We're going to... Oh, snap. Well, there we go. We can't actually use the hard drive to store our games. How about that? Well then, crap. That's not good. Alright, I'm gonna have to move everything back. Bear with me. Alright, so now that we have those game files moved back over to the USB drive, let's go ahead and try this again, shall we? We're in Quick NES, so let's go ahead and load up some NES games, see how they happen to perform. So I decided to load up Super Mario Bros. Because it's a game I'm really familiar with and should know how it runs. And first impressions for me are pretty good. It's running really smoothly, but the aspect ratio isn't quite right and there is a lot of blurriness. And the PS2 is outputting in 480i instead of 480p or 240p, so the source is interlaced when it should be progressive. I'm gonna check out the quick menu options here real quick. Alright, so I'm going to change the scaling real quick. So we're going to do integer scaling on. And then I'm going to turn off the bilinear filtering because that ought to help quite a bit with the blurriness. And then we have our aspect ratio here. I'm going to set this back to 4:3, see if that helps with the squishing any. Oh, while we're here, we can also change the color palette. I'm going to change this over to the Sony color palette because that is my favorite one for NES. Alright, let's take a look and see what this looks like now. Alright, so a lot cleaner with the bilinear filtering disabled. The aspect ratio still isn't quite right, but I will work on fixing that another time. I just want to kind of play through the game a little bit more and just get a feel for it. But yeah, a lot smoother than I was honestly expecting it to be. Alright, so made it to World 4, didn't use the warp, and yeah, the game is running a lot better than I thought it would, so this is turning out pretty good for Retroarch on PS2. This is a great experience so far. Alright, so I decided to switch over to Legend of Zelda real quick to see how it would run as well, and again, it's running really well. I'm bad at it, but that's okay. So yeah, NES stuff so far is working pretty good. I haven't played any of the really demanding NES games yet, but I'm having a lot more faith that it'll turn out okay. With the purpose of this video just being about quick exploration of Retroarch on PS2, I don't really have time to deep dive all of the performance-heavy games, so I hope you will all understand that, but overall, I'm really happy with it so far. Alright, let's check out some Pico Drive real quick, because this is able to play Master System, Genesis, 32X, and supposedly Sega CD games, so we'll see how it handles on PS2. Alright, so before we get into the games, I'm going to disable that bilinear filtering again, because I just do not like having it enabled. Especially on a CRT, like, it looks so good without it on. Like, my goodness, it looks good. Then integer scaling on, you shouldn't need it for any of this stuff, but I like having it on anyway. And now let's go ahead and load up some of the content. So what do we have here? Let's start with Genesis games. Let's start with a classic here, Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, so there we go. Sonic the Hedgehog running on a PS2. Let's go. Hey, that works out pretty good. And then here's the sound quality for those of you that are interested in that. It's the same as normal Pico Drive, but just on a PS2, it sounds like. I mean, Again, I'm not the biggest diehard Genesis buff, so I don't mind the way that the emulation sound is, but for those of you diehards out there, you will need to decide for yourself. But yeah, this is actually a really good experience, especially on a CRT. This looks a lot better than the NES does. Like, even though it's still interlaced instead of being progressive, like, this actually looks good. It's not as noticeable as it was on NES. Alright, so that runs well. Let's move on to a Sega Cd game, see if that even runs. Alright, so it doesn't look like that ran. It can't find the BIOS file, so let's, oh, it probably can't even look in this. Oh man, the BIOS file needs to go back over to the mass storage device too, I bet. Hold on, we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so I went ahead and moved that system folder that I had the BIOS files in back over to the USB drive. Then I went into settings, went to the directory, and changed the location of the system file to look for this system file. Now we should be able to load Sega CD games. And it doesn't look like Sega CD is going to work. Yeah, there's nothing happening here. Alright, well, since that doesn't seem to work, let's just go ahead and load up Master System game. Alright, well, Master System looks like it runs really well. Look at this, very smooth. Again, very easy to see that this is running in interlaced instead of progressive. Master System and NES really showed that off more than Genesis did. On the CRT, it still looks pretty nice, though, but yeah, you can definitely tell in the capture. But yeah, speed looks good, sound looks good, like... This should be pretty viable for Master System games. Alright, so here we are. Let's load up MGBA and see what happens here. We're gonna need to change our GBA BIOS folder, system folder probably, since all of these cores use their own configuration files. So let's go ahead and do that first. We're going to go ahead and turn off bilinear filtering again, because I just really can't stand having that on. Scaling, we're going to turn that back on. And then for configuration, and then for directories, we're going to change the system BIOS folder to our Ps2 Retroarch system BIOS folder. There we go. Alright, now let's go ahead and start loading up some GBA games, see how this runs. Oh man, that is slow. That's super laggy and slow. That's not... Oh boy. That's no good. That's a bad sign. Okay, now that we're past the BIOS, it seems to be okay though. Oh no. No, it's not. Okay. Oh man, those 3D effects are just tanking it. Oh no. Oh man, that's not good. Oh, that's really not good. Okay, so games like Tony Hawk are they're not gonna do very well. This makes me a little sad. I mean, it's not unexpected. GBA emulation is going to be more demanding than prior systems we've tested, but I was not expecting this. Oh well. Let's get in the game and like just see how it handles there once we're past all of this. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, that's so bad. Look how slow that is. Oh man. And it's like I have no idea if it's because of the storage or if it's just because it's slow. Like, I have no clue. My goodness, that's bad. Oh, that is so unplayable. Like, it looks pretty good even with the interlacing, but oh, that is just not okay. Okay, let's try something. Okay, let's try something a little less demanding here. Let's do something 2D. Let's go ahead and load up Super Mario World. Okay, so even Super Mario World, purely 2D, like this is giving it a run for its money here. This is, GBA is definitely not going to be playable, guys. Yeah, GBA is just not going to happen. Okay. Alright, so instead of GBA, let's go ahead and try to load up just some regular Game Boy Color. Alright, so even Game Boy Color isn't the best here. Like, we have... At least we have some playable speeds, but the sound and the audio is really bad. So yeah, far from ideal, but doable if you're curious, I suppose. And because I have to, here's how Pokemon Blue looks through Retroarch on PS2. It's turning in a pretty decent performance. It's lagging up every now and then, but for those of you that might want to enjoy some Pokemon on your PS2, this might be a viable option. Yeah, this isn't so bad actually for Pokemon Blue. Oh, there we go. As soon as those text boxes pop up, though, we get some nice lag to accompany them, so... Again, you need to know the limitations of the hardware you're working with here, I suppose. It's not going to be perfect. Alright, so that's our first look at PS2 Retroarch. It's kinda hit and miss. 2048 works well, Quick NES works well. Sega stuff works mostly well, except for Sega CD, but I'm honestly wondering if that's just due to USB 1.1 limitations. And then poor Game Boy just doesn't work very well at all, so I need to spend more time with this to really put it through its paces properly, but honestly, like, this is a pretty okay way to play NES and Genesis games, as long as you don't mind that it's interlacing your picture. I mean, if you're playing this on a CRT, it looked pretty good. Like, I was playing off the CRT this whole time, and it looks great. It's just in the video capture, you can really tell that it's interlacing it, but on the CRT, I couldn't really tell as much. It looked really good. And then I need to do some further exploration about the aspect ratio and all that too. I couldn't quite figure out how to get it to look the way it was supposed to, so honestly, it's good enough that I am curious to keep trying it and see where it goes in the next couple months. Overall, not too shabby. If you are interested in playing a few games on your PS2 through emulation, this is a way to do it. I mean, there's plenty of standalone emulators, of course, and let's be honest, they're probably better, but it's fun. I like the Retroarch user interface, and it's something I'm familiar with, so why not? Why not try it out? Again, I hope you enjoyed this supposed to be quick, but not so quick look at it, and yeah, head over to retroarch.com, download the PS2 version if you're curious to try it out for yourself. That's gonna do it for today, so as always, thank you so much for watching. I can't thank you all enough for everything you do for this channel. It really helps it grow and keeps us moving forward, so thank you. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that sub button, that like-dislike button, just depending how much you like today's video. And if you'd like to further help support the channel, you can always click that join button here on YouTube, or check out that Patreon link in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. As always, I'm just grateful for your consideration, and for those of you who have already done so, thank you so incredibly much. I cannot tell you enough how much it really helps keep this channel going, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. But that's gonna do it for today, so until next time, stay awesome, and we will see you all back next video.